Jeremy Corbyn, former Labour leader and the former Labour MP for this seat, Islington North, for over 4 decades. But his old party beated him out. Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, campaigned on a platform of being Corbyn's friend, of carrying on his domestic policies. Well, all that went out the window, of course. Now, a lot of people think Corbyn surely will walk it here in Islington North. He's very well regarded as a constituency MP, even when people don't agree with him. I think that's a mistake. I think there's a lot of complacency. Islington, where we are here, has a massive turnover of people. So that is people moving in and out. Lots of people don't know what constituency they're in, let alone who their local MP is. There's the fact that the Labour Party has data of where people are and who they're voting for. An independent campaign starts from scratch, and that's a problem because you've got to identify your voters to get them to come out and vote for you on polling day. How are people who voted Lib Dem in the past going to vote? Well, a lot of them might just go over to Labour. There's also the problem that people often turn up to vote for a party, and there's this idea being spread, including I think by the Labour Party, that it's either you vote Labour or you get Tories. That's not true here. I've just gone through some of the challenges. There's a lot of obstacles there. So I want to go and speak to his campaign. I want to speak to him as well. I want to speak to voters on the streets. I want to see what the general vibe and the general mood is. But I don't think it's automatically in the bag for Jeremy Corbyn at all. And I think what we're going to find is if people don't knock on doors, then the likes of Peter Mandelson are going to be very, very happy indeed. Can I ask you quickly how it went?
I would say pretty good, yeah. I'd say we got, lots of kind of good support for Jeremy, and he's been doing this for a long time, so he deserves that support. Lots of people not in, obviously, is what you get, and some people not voting, but very little support for Labour, I think, although there are people who are just saying no, who I suspect are sticking with Labour, and they'll be the quiet voters that we need to worry about, really.
Well, there's Labour, there's Corbyn. I think round here, the best use of my vote is going to be Corbyn or Labour. As long as I'm convinced that Labour are going to win the election, I see no problem with having Corbyn in Parliament. So yeah, if I'm convinced of that, I'll probably vote for him.
Probably Labour. I mean, I don't love it, but at least it's not the Tories. I want to use my vote against the Tories, so I don't want to split, so I don't know.
But the Conservatives can't win here. No one is good. Either Labour or Jeremy Corbyn will win.
That's true, but yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, anyone but the Tories, all right?
I think it's mainly about letting the Tories in. They're just a bit worried. They want to vote Labour because they don't want to let the Tories in. I think that's the main thing.
Well, it's interesting because the Tories have no chance here. But does that actually cut through as a message? People actually think, well, actually the Tories might win, even though there's no chance. I mean, they just wouldn't win it.
Yeah, I mean, those are the responses. I think there's a lot of unawareness about the whole political situation. So they just go with the headline things that they hear. So and a lot of people I think are Labour voters, and they've always been Labour voters, so they just want to vote Labour again.
Did you get a sense that some people didn't understand that he was standing as an independent candidate?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and it's surprising how many people do know, but lots of people don't know, and we have to keep working on that message that Jeremy's standing as an independent, he's not standing for Labour, and that's the message we've got to get over, really, because people will be confused on the polls, and we need to make sure they're not confused when they get there.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Of course, Jeremy Corbyn, yes.
Why Jeremy for you?
Well, I just think it's better for the support this neighbourhood, than just going for Labour. I think it's better that we think of our own here.
I also think Labour's going to get in, so I'm not sure
I would vote for Labour if I thought it wasn't a one-horse race.
Because also here the Conservatives can't win in Islington North anyway, can they?
No. I think Jeremy Corbyn's better for us anyway in North Islington. So.
Do you think everyone knows here that he's standing as an independent? Is that a bit of a challenge? Do people that he's standing as an independent, is that widely understood?
We have a friend and she understands that he's independent, and part of the reason she moved to Islington was to be in the same borough with Jeremy Corbyn, so that's what she wants. So
that's commitment.
Yeah. Well, we're only a few years here ourselves, so yeah.
But do you think he'll do it?
Oh yeah.
I do. I think he's got the support in the area. Definitely.
He's always been this person that you can go to get things done in Islington housing. He's been the pioneer for finding grants for the community, etc.
Do you think one of the struggles he's got is not everyone knows he's not even a Labour candidate anymore, and not everyone even knows what constituency they're in? I mean, But what do you think about other people, you know? Are they aware?
Actually, in Islington, everybody that I've spoken to are aware about Jeremy Corbyn and the great things that he's done, and he is now going to be, what's he doing?
Independent. He's independent.
He's going to be an independent. However, a lot of people are saying, with regret, they've always, voted for Labour, but because of this divide, they're going with Jeremy Corbyn. I live off St John's Way, and all my neighbours are telling me from last year, watch this space, Jeremy Corbyn's coming back.
So do you think he'll do it?
I believe he will do it, and we need him. We really do.
I'm voting Jeremy. Yeah, that's that.
And what makes? Yeah, what for you? Yeah.
Well, I've always voted for him from before, and he's a man of the community. We know him not on a personal level, but he lives not far from where we live. Always says hello. Always, has a little chat with us. He seems like a genuine chap. So.
How do you feel about Labour having booted him out?
Yeah, it's not great, but at the same time, I feel like he's going to do better on his own.
Yeah.
And with us behind him, and hopefully a lot of us, then he'll get a seat somewhere.
Other people, you know.
Yeah, so many people I know. Like yesterday, there was people like just signing like forms and stuff, just putting their names down and their like email address and their details, just so that people can keep in contact with them. Because a lot of people might vote Labour by mistake, thinking Jeremy's still part.
Well, that's what I thought. I wondered if a lot of people do think he's Labour still.
I don't think everyone knows that he's independent, but
they might walk in and see and go, "What's going on?"
Yeah, and then sometimes you don't really read the names. You just see maybe the symbol of the parties and just tick it or cross it, and then you just get on about your day. So people need to just be vigilant and just conscious about what they're actually crossing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, peace.
Well, first of all, I think it's just been such a terrible injustice the way he's been treated by the Labour Party. It's clearly sort of a political vendetta that Keir Starmer and a lot of the Labour right seems to have. And it's clearly quite a lot of symbolism for them in unseating him. But from a perspective of him as a local MP, I moved to Islington North in sort of late 2020. I was still a Labour member, and so I was still sort of involved with the local Labour Party for a bit. And even then, going out and knocking on doors, I was really struck by the fact that absolutely everyone had a story about Jeremy. It wasn't just, I see him out and about, he's a nice guy. It was he helped me get this flat. He helped my mum when she came here as a refugee. He helped me get my kids into the local school. He supported my community centre. Not small things, just really, really impactful things that really made a difference in people's lives. And it wasn't just the odd one or two people. It was every sort of second or third person had a story. The number one reason people said that they used to vote Labour but wouldn't anymore was because of his treatment. And I thought, he's been the MP here for over 40 years now. He's clearly done a fantastic job. It's not right that the people of this constituency should have that taken away from them because of the Labour right's kind of petty political squabbles.
I'm supporting Jeremy because I'm terrified of what's happening to our National Health Service. So I have an incurable lung and heart condition. I've been an NHS patient for many, many years. The NHS saved my life. I'm only here because of the NHS. And Jeremy embodies the values that the NHS was founded on, the values of compassion, of care, of equality. And I think it's disgraceful what's happened to him. He's been serving this community for decades and decades, since before I was born. And if the people of Islington North know what's good for them, they'll re-elect him, because he's the voice that will stand up for a public health service that's free and accessible to all, and that's what I really care about, because without the NHS I wouldn't be here.
I used to be chair of Islington Carers, and he came along there, used to support the carers. In fact, there was one carer who's having problems with her immigration status. He came to court with me to help get her stay of whatever it's called, sort out her immigration. He's just really committed to people. He's a good man.
This is the 11th general election I've fought, and all the others have been as a Labour candidate, so it is very, very different. There's no automatic machine, there's no automaticity about anything. We announced very late because I was still trying to persuade the Labour Party that I ought to be at least considered as a candidate. And we've had to build a campaign up from zero. And as you can see, in 3 weeks, we've achieved an amazing amount. A lot of people coming to help. And we've got an office and doing all the campaigning work. And it's, but in many ways, it's not that different. I'm knocking on doors. Many of the people I've met many times before. We talk about the issues that they've always faced, and we're getting a huge amount of support.
The Labour Muslim Network have repeatedly charged Labour with Islamophobia, and we've had briefings, for example, the Batley Spen by-election about Muslim voters turning away from Labour because they're anti-Semitic and homophobic. We've had your long-standing friend and ally, Diane Abbott, the first black female politician elected, the way she was treated. Faisal Shaheen, more recently, Chingford and Woodford Green, deselected and to really publicly humiliate her, I would say. Do you think the Labour Party is an institutionally racist party?
It's got to look at the language it uses and look at the way that it treats issues of racism in our society. Let's be clear, racism in any form is wrong. Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-black racism, any form of racism is unacceptable. There cannot ever be a hierarchy of racism. I mean, it seems to me that the treatment of Muslim candidates like Faisal Shaheen is shocking, absolutely shocking. She was selected as a candidate, brilliant campaigner, very intelligent woman, somebody you'd be proud to have in Parliament, driven out, and others as well. Surely we need to have an inclusive movement and be the message that we don't accept racism in any form in our society, and everybody is of equal worth, whatever their faith, whatever their language, whatever their ethnicity.
Is the Labour Party dead?
It's in a bad place because it's gone away from all the principles that were there in the past. The principles of equality, the principles of public ownership, the principles of a cohesive society. And all they're offering is wealth creation. Okay, wealth creation, great idea. That wealth that's created, where's it going to go? It doesn't say anything about redistribution of it. Now, you might become the most brilliant video entrepreneur the world has ever seen. You might end up making millions, and because of the millions you make, you'd be forced, in order to keep your wealth, to move to the Cayman Islands. And
that was actually my plan, Am.
Oh, is it? Have I revealed,
exclusive.
Have I revealed something which I didn't know before?
Jeremy,
that Owen Jones was on his way to the Cayman Islands as a video entrepreneur. But okay, creating wealth is something that's done by people. Those billionaires that are extolled as wonderful, high-achieving individuals by every one of our media and told they're people to look up for, where did their wealth come from? I've never forgotten an interview once with Roman Abramovich's press officer on Radio 4. And they sort of very delicately said, well, Mr. Abramovich seems to have a lot of money. Yeah? How did he get it? And this man who was representing the Blessed Roman Abramovich said, he works very hard. Now, I'm sure he does. I've just been up to the Whittington Hospital to hand in a message about the NHS. I know hundreds of people in the Whittington who also work very hard, and they have to go to a food bank at the end of the week. It's about redistribution of wealth and let the ingenuity of people benefit us all, not just benefit the super rich.
The Labour leadership now have kind of made a calculation that the mistake made in the past was that the left wasn't just purged when they had the chance. And now they think, this time we're not going to make that mistake. So do you think that's just it for the left and the Labour Party? That there's no coming back?
If they end up purging everybody and just have a tiny rump of people to the left within the party, then things are going to develop elsewhere. Now, I want to see a vibrant socialist alternative within our society. I'm not sure that the immediate formation of yet more political parties is a good thing or high on the agenda. What I think is important is the growth of community politics, where people come together around a common cause. This morning we had a lot of people together around the principles of the NHS. They were probably in different political parties of various sorts. Fine, I don't care, that's fine. So we build up that sense of community. What I said at the end of my speech was that if elected, we will have a monthly People's Assembly in Islington, which will focus on different issues. It'll be focusing on health, focusing on housing, focusing on environment, focusing on international justice issues, focusing on the needs and benefits of refugees to our society. That will build up of itself a critical mass of political activity in the country. After that, anything is possible. I got this inspiration ideas partly from the Workers' Party in Brazil, which is not really a political party in the traditional sense. It's much more a community-based party, and it came from the growth of community politics in Brazil during the time of the military dictatorship in Brazil. And that sense of community politics survived Bolsonaro, and despite all the attacks on Lula, got Lula out of prison and got him re-elected as president. So there's inspiration to be learned from a lot of places. All great things don't necessarily come from Europe.
Labour, originally Keir Starmer backed Israel's right to cut off water and energy, which is a war crime, as a human rights lawyer should know. But they've shifted now to saying that they, for example, they oppose the Rafah offensive. They've been talking about, it's gone too far, basically, is that kind of their gist. But they've not committed, for example, to ending arms sales. So I'm just interested, what do you think a Labour government under Keir Starmer would facilitate war crimes of the sorts that we've seen over the last few months?
Everything they've said over the past few weeks leads me to believe that the Labour offer is inadequate on this. We need, one, an immediate and total ceasefire. It's on offer. It could be done. Accompanied with withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza and the West Bank back to the 1967 borders. We need to recognise Palestine in the way that most countries in the world have, and now Ireland, Norway and Spain have. I was sent a picture 2 days ago by my friend Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who's the Palestine National Initiative. He sent me a picture of a 3-year-old that weighs 5 kilos. A 3-year-old that weighs 5 kilos. That is less than the weight of a cat. This child was just about alive. Within a few kilometres of where that child is dying from hunger and malnutrition and dehydration, there's unlimited supplies of food, of water, of medicine and everything else. Restaurants, the lot. We're just watching the destruction of a people. I went to the International Court of Justice hearing in The Hague. The South African government asked me to go as part of the entourage observing the process, and I was honoured to be there, and it was an eye-opener just hearing the presentation in very strictly legal terms, using the words about genocide and the interim decision made by the ICJ. If we believe in international law, we believe in human rights, we believe in justice, abide by the decision. Instead, what are we doing? Facilitating supplies of arms to Israel, allowing them to be exported from this country and the United States and France and Germany, and knowing full well that 35,000 people have already died. In September, we're publishing a book about the arms trade called The Monstrous Anger of Guns, and that will be exposing the malevolent influence of the arms trade around the world.
My name is Praful Nargand, and I'm a young entrepreneur. The businesses that exist in 10 years are going to be unrecognizable from what we have today. When we confront these trends and changes, artificial intelligence, robotics, digital technology, the revolution which is taking place in my sector in biomedical sciences, we need a plan and we need a strategy. And what I feel more than ever is that the Labour Party are intensely focused on that future and getting the country ready. Privatization of healthcare is very, very important. And it's about what the private sector can do to prove its worth to the public sector quite a lot of the time.
Have you seen the footage of the imposed Labour candidate extolling apparently the virtues of NHS privatisation?
I was shown this last night, the footage of somebody arguing for privatisation of our NHS to show what the private sector can do for our services. I think we know very well what the private sector can do for our services. Make money out of our NHS at the expense of patient care. That's why I'm totally against it. It's why I made a big deal in the 2019 election of the internal market in the NHS and opening up to a special trade agreement with the USA where the Trump administration was demanding access to Britain's health market. It's not for sale.
Finally, if someone who's watching or listening to this, they want you to win, but they think, I'll be fine, he'll walk it. I don't need to go and knock on any doors. What would you say to that person?
Forget those wonderful thoughts you're having. There is no certainty of anything. No election is won until all the votes have been cast. And elections, to me, are very important because they're an expression of public opinion. Democracy is not just about elections, it's what you do between elections. But I would say to them, forget those thoughts and go out there and knock on some doors, because that way we're going to get support, explain to people what it's all about, and that way we can win. I'll be very proud to win. Not for me, it's not about me. It's about everybody else who was denied democratic rights and democratic choice here. And it's also about all those that want to live in a fairer, more decent, more just society. And I'm determined to win to achieve that message.
There's no question that Jeremy Corbyn has a huge amount of organic support in his constituency, and I've travelled around the country a lot. It's rare you find voters speaking with such effusive praise about their local MP, and I think regardless of your politics, that's clearly the case. I still think there's a big challenge here, because this is a campaign which didn't launch that long ago. It didn't have the data. They've got to find their supporters to get them to the polling stations, and they need to have conversations with voters who are frankly confused. A lot of them don't realise he's an independent candidate. A lot of people don't know what constituency they're in. I mean, that's just a fact. People are not as engaged as losers like myself when it comes to politics. Some people are, they might end up voting Green even though they're not really campaigning here, because they're angry with Keir Starmer without realising Jeremy Corbyn is the candidate who got booted out of the Labour Party. There's lots of things they have to resolve. And that depends on them getting enough people to knock on doors. If they get more people to knock on doors in the last part of this campaign, I think they've got a good chance. If they don't, then this seat will go to a Labour candidate with completely different politics to that of Jeremy Corbyn. So I think that's a race against time for them. And I think their biggest menace is complacency. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do leave your comments. We've lots of videos to come in this scintillating, exciting general election campaign. So like, subscribe, help us keep the show on the road at patreon.com/OwenJazz84. I'll speak to you soon.